part of the big mine at Sishen, the 8th largest iron ore mine in the world. That's about as far as we can go. Monster mine dumps, they're like mountains. They've taken a lot of earth out of here. This is mine dumps as far as the eye can see. Huge. Just outside Katu at Sishen. And this behind me here is the railway line from Sishen to Saldanha. It's about 860 kilometers of line through a very remote area. Built by ISCOR in the 1970s, completed in 1976 by ISCOR and then handed over to Transnet, purely for the use of iron ore transport from Sishen mines down to Saldanha Bay, where there's a deep water port that can take the type of ships necessary. Now, what I understand is in the 70s there was big debate in Parliament about this project. The opposition parties thinking more along the lines that the line should go east down to a place called St. Croix, which is roughly where Kuche is today, as I understand it, in Algoa Bay, where a deep water port could be built and indeed subsequently has been built. The reasoning behind that is it would be a lot cheaper. My understanding is you could link up with existing lines a large chunk of the way, not build a totally new line, and that the lines could be multi-purpose, used for other purposes too, which seems to make sense from my simplistic, from the little I know about rail travel or rail transport. But it was overlooked by the government at the time. They wanted this unique and quite costly line through remote areas to Saldanha. Now the downside is it goes through remote areas where it's not going to have an economic impact. There's really no economy to speak of along most of this railway line until it gets to the west coast. So there's nothing else for it to really be used for. But the argument was to develop Saldanha. There was race-based policies at the time, and as my understanding goes, it seems that they wanted to build, develop economically so-called coloured areas up the west coast. Now, that's what I read, and that's what some of the motives that were offered apparently at the time. Whether it was the genuine motives or not, who knows? But the idea was to beneficiate and have value-adding services for the iron ore industry at Saldanha and develop Saldanha, which had limited success. The steel at Saldanha closing down, as I understand it, a few years ago. So the raw iron ore largely gets exported. But this was it's about 860 kilometers of line all the way to Saldanha. That was the decision. Now, the interesting part is what I wonder about is, given the almost collapse of certain parts of the rail system in the country, and with Sishen Saldanha actually being rated as one of the better performing segments of what's left of Transnet's lines, you wonder if we didn't get lucky by putting it through such remote areas. Because what I read is that while there is vandalism, while there is theft of equipment and theft of cable and so on along this line, it seems to be less the case than on other lines to the east, where the country is more populated, more economic activity happens, and this goes through more remote areas, which possibly saves it and keeps it as one of the better performing lines. So there may have been a little bit of luck involved at the time in the 70s when this was mooted. The crime and the cable theft wasn't such a big deal. But now, going through the remote areas, who knows? It might have saved the Sishen Saldanha and kept it one of the better performing lines of what remains of Transnet's network. Interesting parting shot is that the trains along this line, and we hope to see one today, get up to near 4 kilometers long, and some of them. And those are some of the longest trains in the world. There have been times apparently where world records in terms of length of train have been set along this railway line.